The book of Revelation can be understood in terms of two basic charts. The first one is Revelation chapters 1 to 11, the first half of the 7-year tribulation, plus the church age, and the second half. Here we're going to go, this is the first thing. We have here church age. Church age, that's what we are in now. This is from 33 AD to rapture. Then we have rapture. You have the dead Christians and the living Christians being taken from earth to heaven, okay? Got, going to write here, dead Christians raised. Here they are, living Christians raised. Okay, Revelation 2 and 3 describe the church age. Okay, work that one out. And then we have chapter 4, Revelation 4 is the rapture. Oh, what shall I do? I'll put that there. 1 onwards. And we meet the Lord in the air. And then we go on to heaven. So there's a 2,000 years period of church age, which we are in right now. And there will be the rapture in chapter 4, verse 1. And then we have this Antichrist makes a peace treaty with Israel. Here we have, let's draw a line here. Here we go, that's, here we do Antichrist makes peace covenant with Israel, and that's there. Okay, and that's where your 7 years tribulation starts. Tribulation.
Does that also mean Jacob's trouble?
Sorry, that's Revelation 6. Okay, got that? Now, so what we have are 7 seal judgments. Chapter 6, we have 7 seals. Right here. 7 seal judgments. Okay? First one, let's say, first one, number 1 is white. I'll do a bit bigger space. White horse equals Antichrist. Number 1. So here we have rapture, chapter 4, Revelation 6, that's 6, 1 and 2, right? White horse rider. That's Antichrist comes to power and makes a 7-year peace treaty, peace covenant with Israel. Number 2, we have red horse rider, red horse, but war. And this one is Russia Iran, Turkey, Libya, attack Israel. Okay? And you get a nuclear war. Okay? Understand that? And then you have the third, is the black horse. This is Revelation 6. Black horse equals famine. When you have a nuclear war, there's going to be famine. Okay, this is Revelation chapter 6. And then number 4, the fourth seal, we're going to have pale horse. And this is death of 1/4 of world population. Mostly by disease. I'll say by disease after war. Okay? So you've got your, that's death, that's Antichrist, war, famine, death. Understand? You got that? Next one, number 5, is Christians killed and their souls in heaven. And this is Revelation chapter 6, and I think it's verse 9 and 10. 6 verse 9 and 10. And they call Christians killed. A lot of people get saved and you have their souls in heaven. They die, they've missed the rapture. These have we have here resurrection bodies. Okay, but these guys here, they don't have resurrection bodies, they only are souls. Okay? And then number 6, you have an earthquake. Okay? And this is a very bad earthquake. And it's Revelation chapter 6, verse 12 to 17. Okay? Earthquake, and then, does that make sense? And people hide in the underground. They hide underground because they know there's big trouble coming up ahead. Then, with the next one, chapter 7, Revelation 7, it is Revelation 7, 1 to the end of the chapter is 144,000 Jews get saved and preach gospel worldwide. And at the moment there's a lot of Jews in Israel becoming Christian, and there's a lot of technology as well, and the Jews are becoming more aware of Jesus Christ being their Messiah. Okay, now look at the 7th one. The seventh seal is in chapter number 8, verse 1. This is chapter 8, verse 1. And this is preparation for the 7 trumpets. Preparation for 7 trumpet judgments. Judgments. Okay? And this is chapter 8, Rev 8, verse 1. Okay? Pretty good? So, at this point, we have the 7 angels in heaven prepared. They sound their trumpets, and each trumpet, a judgment occurs. And we'll have a look, and this is what we're up to now. We've seen that. Then you have your 7 trumpet judgments, and that takes us to the midpoint, the 3.5-year point of the tribulation. And I should mention here that the temple is rebuilt.
Where?
Sometime here. Number 1, temple built in Jerusalem.
Built or rebuilt?
Built, rebuilt, same thing.
Same? No.
Built, called rebuilt, okay, rebuilt if you want to call it rebuilt. But it's, okay, it'll be in Jerusalem. We had Solomon's temple, we had Herod's temple, they both got destroyed, and now there'll be, I'll just say temple built. So we have not seen it, but the Jews are planning to build that temple right this moment. So much of the vessels and the priests and the sacrifices all ready to go. All they need is the building, and it'll be located south of Jerusalem. Right, now let's look at these. The first trumpet is in chapter 8, verse 7. Let's take it over here. These, let's call these 7 seal judgment. Okay, now we have 7 trumpet judgments. And this is, that's Revelation 6. And this is Revelation 8. Okay, and the first trumpet, trumpet number 1, is in chapter 8, verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail, fire, and blood on the earth. A third of the trees and grass were burnt up. So this one has hail, fire, blood, and it results in 1/3 of trees, 1/3 grass burnt. So it sounds like some kind of object from space. Hail, fire, blood, people die. Okay, hail means from space, I think it means from space. Fire means burns up, it's burning. And blood means people die. So here we can put here, this is the first trumpet judgment. So it's something, some object coming from space. Let's look at the second one, the second trumpet, chapter 7. This is 8 verse 7. That's right, 8, Revelation 8 verse 7. Then we have number 2. We have the second trumpet judgment, Revelation 8 verse 8 and 9. The second angel sounded, as it were, a great mountain burning with fire, cast into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood, 1/3 of the creatures in the sea and had life died. A third of the ships were destroyed. So it's a burning mountain cast into the sea. Burning mountain falls into the sea, cast into the sea. And the result is sea became blood, and third of the fish and the ship, sea, blood, sea, 1/3 of fish, 1/3 of ships destroyed. And you can remember this easily by thinking about fish and the ships. Fish and the ships.
I love fish and chips.
Fish and the ships. Okay? But when it happens, people won't laugh then.
No,
It'll be a big problem.
Sarah.
Okay, the third trumpet now is chapter 8, verse 10 and 11. This, I should put here, Revelation 8, verse 8. That we read it, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So here you have a burning object from space, fell on the rivers and dams. Let's call this a burning meteorite. Falls on rivers and dams, and they become bitter water. It's called wormwood. It's called wormwood. Okay, and many people die of this bitter death. Okay, and this is Revelation 8, verse 9, 10, 11. Okay. Next one, number 4. The fourth trumpet judgment is found in Revelation 8, verse 12 and 13. The fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, third part of the moon, third part of the stars, so the third part of them were darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. So the sun, moon, a third of the light from the sun, moon and stars is diminished. Okay. 1/3 of sunlight, 1/3 of moonlight, 1/3 of starlight, lost, diminished, faded. Okay, so, and then you have the fifth trumpet, which is the first woe. There's fifth trumpet. This is Revelation 8, verse 12 and 13. The fifth trumpet is the first woe. Okay, and we have a look here at chapter 5, verse 1 to 12. I'm going to read this and you tell me what you think this is talking about. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. This star would be some kind of evil angel, some kind of angel. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions that have power. It was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So these are not normal locusts, because normal locusts eat vegetation. And unto them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. Their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he strikes a man. In those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared to battle. On their heads as it were crowns like gold. Their faces were as the faces of men. They had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. They had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron. The sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. They had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon. 1 woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. So what is this? Is talking about locusts from the bottomless pit torment men 5 months. Locusts from bottomless pit torment unsaved 5 months. Unsaved men 5 months. Pretty bad. Quite a serious problem. These are they could be demonic locusts, we don't know, but they will be some kind of creature from the pit that will torment people for 5 months. This is chapter Revelation 9, 1 to 12. Next one is the 6th trumpet, which is also the 2nd woe. Now let's have a look at this. This is Revelation 9, verse 13 to 21. The 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the 3rd part of men. The number of the army of the horsemen were 200 million, and I heard the number of them. As if the reader might not believe John, he said, I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone. The heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these 3 was a 3rd part of men killed by the fire, smoke and brimstone which issued out of their mouths. So it's some kind of missile launcher. Power is in their mouth and in their tails. That's propulsive power from their tails, a rocket exhaust, and in their mouth where they spit out the missiles. For their tails were like serpents and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So they fire missiles with heads that blow up. Missile warheads blow up and hurt people. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of their works of their hands. They should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of sorceries, that's drug taking, murders, abortions, sorceries, drug taking, fornication, immorality, nor of their thefts. Okay? So what we have here is a 200 million man army coming from beyond the Euphrates River, which is China. Let's just write this here. 200 million man army from beyond Euphrates. Kills 1/3 of mankind. Pretty bad. And this sounds like China, doesn't it? Okay.
Is that because of populations?
Well, they can assemble an army of 200 million without any problem. And this is Revelation 9, 13 to 21. Okay, and number 7, the 7th trumpet happens to be the 3rd woe. Okay, and we see there is in chapter 10 there is a parenthesis, and chapter 11 speaks about the temple, the 2 witnesses. I'm going to write here Revelation 11. 1, you've got the temple built. Revelation 11 verse 3 to 12. 3 to 12. Preach from Jerusalem, and Antichrist kills them. They preach 1260 days. Okay. And then the second woe is verse 13 and 14. The same hour was there a great earthquake. 10th part of the city fell. In the earthquake there were slain of men 7,000. Remnant were frightened and gave glory to the God of heaven. So the second woe, there's also an earthquake. This is an earthquake. And the third woe is the seventh trumpet, which is chapter 11, verse 15 to 19. Revelation 11, 15 to 19. Third woe. This seventh angel sounded. There was a great voice in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ. He shall reign forever and ever. The 24 elders which sat before God on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped God, saying, we give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged. They should give reward. Thou should give reward to thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and should destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of God was opened in heaven. There was seen in the temple the ark of his testament. There were lightnings, voices, thunderings, earthquake, great hail. So on your chart here, we have here this is the start for the 7 last plagues, and we see here the a scene in heaven where Jesus is coming back to destroy those who destroyed the earth, and the ark of his covenant is in heaven. The ark of the covenant is in heaven. This is called Introduction to 7 bowls, 7 bowl judgments. And we've got also the Ark of Covenant in heaven. Okay, so that's the third woe, and this is verses 15 to 19. Now in chapter 12 we have 7 personages. Chapter 12 and 13, 7 persons. Let's just write this here, okay? Revelation 12 and 13. 7 persons, 7 characters. Okay? And the first one is Israel, a woman, which is Israel, a woman with child, and this is Israel. It's a very interesting one. It's chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with sun and moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, and she being the 12 stars of the 12 tribes of Israel, she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. So this is the woman Israel. Number 1 is the woman Israel. So Israel is compared to a woman. Don't know why, but the second person in this passage is Satan, verse 3 and 4. I should write 12, 1 and 2. And here we have Satan. This is 12, verse 3 and 4. We read, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. His tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast him to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Devil sought to destroy Jesus as soon as he was born, wasn't he? And this is picturing Satan. This is a symbol of Satan. Then verse 5 and 6 is Jesus Christ. Verse 5 and 6 is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ born. Say Revelation 12 verse 5 and 6. And we notice here, if you can look it up in your Bibles and follow this please, it'd be nice. She brought, verse 5, she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And a child, that's the second coming, and a child was caught up to God and to his throne. When was Jesus caught up to heaven? 33 AD, when he ascended to heaven. And the woman fled into the wilderness, so there's a gap between verse 5 and 6. The woman Israel fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. This 1260 days is the second half of the 7-year tribulation, because 1260 days is 42 months. Okay? And then verses 7 to 12 is Michael the Archangel. Okay? Number 4, Michael Archangel. 12, verse 7 to 12.
I'm going to finish the closing.
There was war in heaven. This is talking, I think it's talking about the space. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So we have here a war in space. A war in space between Michael and the good angels fighting Satan and his evil angels. And it says, neither was that there were, verse 8, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So wherever they were residing was destroyed. Maybe it was a star system, planet system, or galaxies or something, gets blown up. There's war in space. Can you imagine the science fiction movie makers would have a field day if they made a movie out of this?
Japanese did that.
I'd like to see the movie.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It's amazing.
And so, verse 10, I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. So the devil gets, loses his place of residence in space, and he gets thrown to the earth. Where can he go? He goes to earth and with his evil angels, and creates problems for the people on the earth. And that's why we call it the tribulation, the great tribulation. And the devil is called the accuser of the brethren, and they overcame him as Christians by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. That verse proves that there's people or angels living in heaven, in space, in the third heaven. It's plural, space in the third heaven. And ye that dwell in them. There's angels or people living in heaven, third heaven and second heaven space. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you having great wrath, because he knows he has but a short time. And we have Satan persecutes the woman, and the fifth person is Jews. The dragon, verse number 17, the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So 12:17, the devil attacks Christians, or Jewish Christians. Okay. So we have number 5, Jewish believers attacked. And that is verse chapter 12, verse 17. Okay, now number 6, Revelation 13, we have two beasts. The third person is number 6 and 7. Chapter 13, verse 1. I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, his mouth the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And this here is talking about the Antichrist. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. It says here, lion and dragon gave him his power and seat and great authority, so he has rule over the earth. This is the Antichrist from Europe. I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. His deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? This is saying that there will be a European military which will be great power, so people will say it's the greatest military power on the earth. Why not America? Well, probably maybe 25% of American Christians have been raptured, taken out of the world, and America is in a disorderly state. Russia has been smashed when they attacked Israel. They've been had nuclear destruction, and so European army would be the biggest military of the world. And today Donald Trump is withdrawing America from NATO and saying, Europe, you've got to pay more money for your military defence instead of relying on America. So now Europe is saying we need to look after our own military to defend against Russia, China and America. That's what they've been talking about. So we have here Antichrist in chapter 13, verse 1 to 10. Number 6 is Antichrist. Chapter 13, verses 1 to 10. And number 7 is talking about his mate, the false prophet. Verse 11, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. He exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Okay, so we have here the false prophet. false prophet who compels people to worship the Antichrist. Okay, so he's discussed there, and verse 13, he doeth great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of them, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, they should make an image of the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So, and had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as should not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So this is talking about artificial intelligence, some kind of intelligent robot system that causes everyone, makes everyone to worship it, and if they don't, they're dead. They get killed. So you have to have some kind of internet connection to supervise and compel and check on people who are worshipping it or not. And then it's a money system as well. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, so no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom for him that hath understanding. Count the number of the beast. It is the number of a man. His number is 666. Okay, so now that takes us to the first half of the tribulation period. We have chapter 14, Babylon announced, and beast worshippers' doom and the vision of Armageddon. Chapter 15, we now have the 7 bowls. Okay? Should we have a break, Danik?
Yeah.
Have a little break?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay. 7:30, and we'll come back, and if you can move your camera over to there,
Yep.
you'll be able to take a picture of that.
Okay,
Any
I'm on.
questions about this? You just walked in, my lad. Okay. Everyone got it clear? You all happy? You got it clear? Amir, you know Farmidam. Okay, we come now to the 7 bowl judgments, which are taking place in the second half of the 7-year tribulation. And here we have the first one is a bad sore comes on beast worshippers. Those who get the mark of the beast get a very bad sore. Now, what I've heard is that they already have microchips, and the microchip happens to have chemicals in the microchip. And if the microchip gets damaged and leaks chemicals, it can cause a sore. It can cause some kind of skin irritation because the microchips have chemicals in them. And it says that the bad sore only comes on people who have the microchip, the mark of the beast. Okay? That's Revelation 16:2. The second of the 7 bowl judgments, the sea becomes blood and the fish die. Maybe it's due to some kind of meteorite or chemical reaction or something, I don't know, but that's what happens. Then the rivers and the dams become blood and the water becomes undrinkable and people have to use filtration. Then number 4, the 4th bowl, the sun becomes 7 times as hot and men are scorched. And there's a passage in the book of Isaiah that talks about this. And Isaiah, can't find it. Okay. And people will blaspheme God because of the sun becoming hot. And then the 5th vial, Europe, the seat of the beast gets darkened and people blaspheme God again. And number 6, the 6th bowl, the Euphrates dries up, making the kings of the east passageway a lot easier. And it says here in chapter 16 verse 12 that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And that's what we have in the world today. What's called the BRI, China's Belt and Road Initiative, where they are making a route for their economics, their business to travel and have access to Middle East and Europe, and also the South Pacific, and China is seeking to extend their control by getting control over ports. And China has control over Haifa port in Israel, Darwin port in Australia, and they are seeking to expand into Fiji and PNG and all around the world. This is called the way of the kings of the East might be prepared. Okay, yes, it's economics, it's business, but it's also got a military component. And America, Donald Trump has woken up to that, and so has the government of Australia, and we don't want China expanding their influence. But that's going to happen. What we're seeing now is the early stages of this way of the kings of the East. And number 7, the 7th bowl judgment, is a great earthquake, the greatest earthquake in the history of the world. Such a great earthquake that it generates a tsunami and probably wipes out most of Indonesia. Okay? And it says the cities of the nations fell. So if there's people living on the earth after the rapture, you've missed the rapture, get out of your high-rise apartment, because it's not going to be a pleasant experience if you're on the top, locked in your apartment and your whole apartment collapses. The islands move out of their places, flee away, and it says the mountains were not found, and there's a great hail as well. So this is a terrible earthquake, the worst earthquake in the history of the world. Mountains get flattened. Wow, that's a pretty heavy earthquake, isn't it? It's hard to imagine that would happen. And then Jesus comes back. We come back with him. The Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. Zechariah 14:5. And very interesting, Zechariah 14 and Revelation 19 talk about Armageddon. And in Zechariah 14 verse 2, it says the Antichrist takes half the city. Half the city of Jerusalem shall go into captivity. Half. Why half? That's because the United Nations and the Muslim nations and the UN want to give East Jerusalem to the Muslims as capital of the Palestinian state, and West Jerusalem to Israel as the capital of Israel. Scott Morrison last week declared Australian government policy, West Jerusalem capital of Israel, East Jerusalem capital of the Palestinian state. God says no way. God says very bad. Joel chapter 3 verse 2. Jesus comes back to destroy the nations' armies and to judge the nations for parting my land. Joel 3 verse 2. Parting my land. God says that he owns the land. Parting my land. The land does not belong to the Muslims, does not belong to the UN or EU or Scott Morrison. It belongs to God. And God owns it, and he's given use of it to Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, descendants of Israel. Okay? So, and then Jesus sets up his kingdom and rules for 1,000 years of peace. One wonderful passage. Very, very exciting. It's going to happen soon, and UN is talking about 2030. They'll have control over the world and world government, and that's exactly what this time scale in Hosea 6:2 talks about. After 2 days will he revive us. Okay? So therein is a summary of Revelation, and so many other Bible passages connecting to this particular scheme of events. Revelation summarises so many other Bible events, and it's a fantastic, wonderful book that gives us a glimpse into the future. God wants us to know what the future contains, so we don't get depressed, so we don't get upset and worried about the problems of life. Life might be tough, but Jesus Christ is coming back, and we're getting a new body, we're getting taken to heaven. We're going to miss out on all this garbage that's been done in the world today, and we will rule with Christ for 1,000 years on this earth, and in eternity, at the end of 1,000 years, there'll be a new universe, and we'll be ruling with Christ forever. Hooray! Beautiful. In a super resurrection body, you will have a super brain and a super good universe with new laws, new universe, new planets, everything new. New Jerusalem, new intelligent beings, okay, to rule over. Very, very exciting. Amen? Okay.